If something starts crying in the trunk, don't open it. It's been practicing. So yeah, tonight I'm gonna finish off my house and then head into the nether. And while I do that, I'm gonna read you two stories. And the last one genuinely makes my skin crawl. Our first one's from r/no sleep, posted by the user Hot Concentrate 4763, and it's titled, I took a night shift at an automated toll booth on Route 9. They gave me a list of rules for the cars that don't have drivers. Look, I'm only posting this because I don't know who else to turn to. I'm typing this out on a crappy laptop at a 24-hour diner just off Interstate 87. It's 4:15 a.m. The coffee tastes like battery acid and my hands are shaking so bad I can barely hold the mug. Every few seconds, I look out the fog glass towards the parking lot, half expecting to see a rusted front bumper idling under the streetlights. If you live anywhere in upstate New York, right around the western lip of Adirondacks, and your GPS ever tries to reroute you onto an old, rusted stretch of asphalt marked Route 9 South, ignore it. I don't care if the interstate is backed up for 30 miles. I don't care if your gas light is on. Just stay on the main highway. To understand why I'm saying this, you have to understand how desperate I was 3 weeks ago. My landlord had already stuck a 3-day eviction notice right on my apartment door. My bank account was sitting in the negative $42. When you're that close to sleeping in your car, you don't ask questions when a lifeline drops out of nowhere. The ad was tucked at the bottom of page 4 on a local Craigslist board. No company logo, no corporate layout. It just said overnight toll monitor, Route 9 sector, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., $45 an hour, must have reliable transportation and pass a background check. $45 an hour just to sit on my ass and watch a coin machine? I called the number before I could even think it through. A guy with a voice like grinding gravel answered on the second ring. He didn't ask for a resume or my experience. He just asked if I minded being alone for long stretches, and if I had any history of sleepwalking. When I told him no, he told me to meet him at the Route 9 maintenance pull-off the following night at 10:30 p.m. sharp. That stretch of road should have been my first warning. Route 9 hasn't been on official state tourist maps since the late 1980s. The trees have grown so thick and aggressive along the shoulders that their branches literally weave together overhead, cutting off the moonlight and creating this permanent suffocating tunnel over the blacktop. When I finally got there, the maintenance pull-off turned out to be nothing more than a gravel clearing cut into the pines. Standing under a single flickering floodlight were 4 tiny bulletproof glass booths straddling 4 automated lanes. It looked entirely out of place, like a sterile modern checkpoint dropped into the middle of an ancient forest. The guy who hired me called himself Vance. He wore a faded, navy blue state transport uniform that looked 20 years old, but it lacked any official state seals or badges. He didn't shake my hand, he just gestured for me to follow him into booth 4. The job is automated, Vance said, his eyes scanning the dark tree line rather than looking at me. The commuters drop their exact change into the baskets. The gates lift, they drive through. Your only job is to sit here, keep an eye on the digital camera feeds, and make sure the physical mechanisms don't jam up. And if they do? I asked, eyeing the heavy bank vault locked on the booth door. Vance reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a laminated double-sided sheet of paper, laying it flat on the metal desk. If anything deviates from the standard routine, you consult the sheet, Vance said, his voice dropped an octave, losing any chance of casual friendliness. You don't improvise, you don't call the police, you don't leave this booth until 6 a.m. when the automated day locks click open. If you break a single instruction on this paper, you won't live long enough to cash your first paycheck. I laughed, expecting him to crack a smile or admit it was a joke. He didn't. He just turned his heel, walked out of the booth, got into an unmarked white pickup truck, and drove away into the dark. I was completely alone. For the first 2 weeks, absolutely nothing happened. And honestly, that was the hardest part. The silence out there isn't normal. There's no crickets, no owls, no wind rustling the pines, just the low hypnotic hum of the fluorescent light tubes inside my booth. By night 4, the isolation started playing tricks on my mind. I found myself reading the laminated sheet over and over again, just to have something to look at. I memorized the text, and the more I read it, the more uncomfortable I became. Rule 1. The toll is exactly $2.50. If a car approaches and the driver hands you a $50 bill without making eye contact, take it, print a receipt, and do not look at the rearview mirror. Rule 2. Between 2 a.m. and 3:15 a.m., a matte black sedan with completely blacked out windows will pull up to lane 3. There is no driver inside. You will hear the sound of a child crying from the trunk. Do not press the emergency gate release. Wait exactly 60 seconds, and the gate will lift on its own. Rule 3. If a vehicle approaches from the wrong direction, drive north in the southbound lane. Do not blink. Keep your eyes locked on its front bumper until it vanishes from sight. If you blink, it will stop. Rule 4. If the automated coin machine in lane 2 starts rattling like something is trying to claw its way out from the coin return slot, turn off your booth lights immediately. Press your back against the floor. Do not look at the glass windows until you hear the sound of heavy rain, even if the sky was perfectly clear when you started your shift. Rule 5. You are not keeping things out of the highway. The toll booths are the locking mechanism keeping something vast underneath the asphalt. If all 4 booths gates open at the same time, you have 3 minutes to run into the woods. Do not look back at the road. By week 3, I had totally convinced myself it was all just an elaborate psychological experiment. Some sick corporate test to see how long a desperate guy would follow insane instructions for $45 an hour. Then came last night. It was 1:14 a.m. The fog had rolled in thick off the mountains, settling over the asphalt like a heavy gray blanket. I was passing the time by playing a game on my phone when the sensor chimed echoed through the booth. Ding! A pair of headlights cut through the fog, approaching lane 4. It was an old tan station wagon, the body panels covered in rust. It idled up to my window, its engine knocking loudly. I rolled down my small glass sliders to greet them, expecting a lost tourist. The man in the driver's seat was wearing a faded gray business suit. He didn't look at me. He kept his eyes locked dead ahead on the closed yellow gate. His hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were stark white. He didn't say a word. He just slowly raised his right hand and held out a clean, crisp $50 bill. My breath hitched in my throat. My mind raced back to the laminated sheet. Rule 1. Take it, print a receipt, and do not look into the rearview mirror. My hand shook as I took the bill. It felt freezing cold to the touch, like it had been sitting in a freezer. I turned to my terminal, pressed the button to print the receipt, and handed it back to him through the slot. The moment his fingers took the paper, the automated gate lifted. The station wagon slowly began to roll forward. That's when my human curiosity ruined everything. I knew the rule. I had read it 100 times. But as the back of the car cleared my window, my eyes automatically darted upward into the car's side view mirror. I looked. There was no reflection of the highway behind him. There was no reflection of my booth. Inside the glass of the mirror, all I could see was a vast, pitch black ocean under a sky filled with dying red stars. And floating just beneath the surface of the black water were hundreds of pale, bloated human faces, all staring out of the glass directly at me. The station wagon disappeared into the fog, but the hum of the fluorescent lights above me suddenly changed pitch, turning into a low, vibrating whine. I sat back down in my chair, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had broken Rule 1. I looked, and according to the clock on the wall, it was exactly 1:58 a.m. 2 minutes until the window for Rule 2 opened. The digital clock on the booth console flipped to 2 a.m. The low whine of the fluorescent tubes grew louder, vibrating through the metal desk until my teeth ached. The fog outside had thickened to an unnatural degree. It pressed against the bulletproof glass like a solid wall of curled milk, completely swallowing the other 3 lanes. I couldn't even see the yellow safety gate directly in front of my own booth anymore. Then a sharp, loud burst of static shattered the silence. I jumped, nearly knocking my coffee onto my lap. The sound wasn't coming from my phone. It was coming from an old, dusty Motorola 2-way radio mounted to the wall beneath the desk. I hadn't noticed it during my first 2 weeks because it had been completely dead. No lights, no battery indicator, nothing. Now, its small analog screen was glowing a faint, radioactive green. 4th shift, respond. Booth 4, do you copy? The voice was warped by a heavy atmospheric static, but I recognized the flat, gravelly cadence immediately. It was Vance. My hand shook as I reached down and unhooked the heavy plastic receiver. I pressed the push-to-talk button. Vance? Vance, is that you? Look, something is wrong out here. A car just went through lane 4. I think I messed up. I looked through the mirror. There was a long, agonizing pause. The static hissed, rising and falling like the sound of distant waves. I warned you about the mirrors, kid. Vance's voice cut through, sounding incredibly far away. The mirrors show the reservoir. Don't look again. If you look 3 times, they don't even need the gates to take you. What reservoir? Vance? What is this place? I practically yelled into the mic. The floor is vibrating. The air smells like old pennies. Come get me. I don't care about the $45 anymore. Just come lock up. Can't do that. The radio crackled. The day locks are set. Nobody comes down Route 9 until 6 a.m. Not even me. Listen to me carefully. What does the console say for lane 3? I glanced over at the digital interface. A small red indicator light was blinking next to the monitor feed for lane 3. It says there's a vehicle idling, I whispered, my throat going dry. But I can't see anything through the fog. It's 2:03 a.m., Vance said. His voice was suddenly devoid of static, perfectly, terrifyingly clear. Rule 2. The black sedan. Don't touch the override switch. If the trunk opens, do not look at it on the camera feed. Just close your eyes and count to 60. Vance, wait. And kid, if the radio clicks 3 times without me speaking, turn it off, pull the battery out. Don't let it talk to you. It? The line went dead. The green black light on the radio screen flickered. I stood there in the suffocating silence, the plastic receiver heavy in my palm. My eyes slowly drifted to the closed circuit monitor on my desk. The camera for lane 3 was a grainy black and white feed. Through the pixelated static of the screen, I could make out the silhouette of a long, heavy vehicle. It had no headlights on. The windows were so dark, they looked like rectangles of pure charcoal cut through the air. Rule 2. There is no driver inside. You will hear the sound of a child crying from the trunk. I stared at the screen, paralyzed. Then a tiny muffled sound leaked through the boot's external intercom system. It was a soft, rhythmic scratching, like fingernails picking at carpet. A second later, the scratching stopped, replaced by a sound that made my chest tighten so hard I couldn't breathe. It was a child's voice, high-pitched, muffled, and desperate, echoing clearly from the trunk of the sedan on lane 3. Mommy? It's dark in here, Mommy? Let me out, I can't breathe. The intercom picked up a violent thump from inside the trunk, followed by a frantic, breathless sob. Every protective instinct in my brain screamed at me to hit the red emergency gate release button on my desk. It was right there. A single press would lift the gate and let the car go. It would end the crime. I reached my hand out. My finger hovered less than an inch above the red button. Click, click, click. I froze. The 3 sharp clicks hadn't come from the intercom. They had come from the dead, unpowered Motorola radio in my hand. The screen didn't light up this time, but from the cold speaker grid, a voice began to whisper. It wasn't Vance. It was my own voice. It sounded exactly like me, but warped, speaking in a flat, monotone cadence. Press the button. My own voice whispered from the radio. Press it. Let us out. We're so cold under the asphalt. Press it. My heart hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs as my own voice continued to warp and hiss out of the speaker grid. Press it. Press the button. We want to meet you. With a panicked yelp, I dropped the receiver. It slammed onto the metal desk. My hands were shaking so violently, I could barely get a grip on the radio's plastic casing. I fumbled with the release tabs on the back, forcing them down until the heavy lithium battery pack popped out and clattered onto the floor. The screen stayed dead. The battery was sitting 3 feet away from the device, but the speaker didn't stop. Why don't you want to let us out? The voice whispered, the tone shifting from a monotone drawl to a wet, raspy wheeze. We've been watching you watch the screen for 14 days. You look so lonely in your little glass box. I scrambled backwards, my boots kicking on the concrete floor until my spine slammed hard against the vault-locked door of the booth. I covered my ears with my hands, but the sound seemed to vibrate directly through the bulletproof glass itself. Outside, the muffled, agonizing sobs of the child in the trunk of lane 3 grew louder, layering over the wet whispers of the unpowered radio. The 2 sounds twined together, creating a maddening, discordant cacophony that filled the tiny, pressurized room. Count to 60, Vance had said. Just close your eyes and count to 60. I squeezed my eyes shut, burying my face in my knees. 1, 2, 3. Every second felt like an eternity. 21, 22. The voice on the radio began to laugh, a wet, rattling sound like a throat filled with fluid. 45, 46. Ding. The lane sensor chimed cut through the noise, a loud, mechanical clang, followed as the yellow gate for lane 3 lifted on its own. Through the glass, I heard the low, heavy purr of the matte black sedan as it slowly accelerated, rolling forward into the soup-thick fog until the sound of the engine completely vanished. The radio went dead silent. The crying stopped. I let out a long, ragged breath, trembling as I pulled my hands away from my ears. The air inside the booth had grown freezing cold, turning my breath into pale plumes of vapor. I dragged myself back up to the chair, my knees weak. I looked at the digital wall clock. 3:14 a.m. I had survived the window. I had kept my finger off the emergency button. A wave of profound, exhausting relief washed over me. I reached for my cold coffee, my hands still trembling, telling myself that if I could just hold out for less than 3 hours, the day locks would click open and I could drive away from Route 9 forever. Then, the clock flipped to 3:15 a.m. From the deep, pitch-black woods to the south, a low, guttural roar echoed down the valley. It didn't sound like a standard car engine. It sounded like an old, massive V8 engine with a cracked manifold, screaming at full throttle. A split second later, a pair of blinding yellow high beams pierced through the fog. My breath caught in my throat. The headlights weren't approaching from the north. They were heading directly toward me, traveling the wrong way down the southbound asphalt, accelerating straight toward lane 1. The light was blinding. It cast long, distorted shadows across the interior of my booth as the vehicle roared closer. It was a heavy, rusted 1970s era pickup truck. The chrome bumper was dented and smeared with dark, dried stains. Rule 3. If a vehicle approaches from the wrong direction, do not blink. Keep your eyes locked in its front bumper until it vanishes from sight. If you blink, it will stop. I gripped the edge of the metal desk, widening my eyes until the skin stretched taut. I stared directly at that dented steel bumper. The truck was moving incredibly fast, a roaring wall of rusted metal. The glare of the high beams hit the glass windows of my booth, refracting into thousands of jagged needles of pure white light that stabbed directly into my retinas. My eyes began to sting. A wave of intense burning dryness hit my eyeballs. "Don't do it," I screamed at myself. "Don't close your eyes." The truck was right there. It was passing lane 1. Just one more second and it would be gone into the fog behind me. But the agonizing burn was too much. A violent, involuntary reflex seized my eyelids. My eyes slammed shut. It lasted less than a quarter of a second, a tiny microscopic fraction of time. But the moment my eyelids parted, the roaring of the V8 engine was gone. Complete, suffocating silence fell over Route 9. The rusted pickup truck hadn't vanished. It was parked dead in lane 1, idling in absolute silence right next to my booth. The driver's side window was rolled down, and from the darkness inside the cab, a pale, elongated arm slowly reached out, pointing a single, trembling finger directly at my face. The pale, elongated arm hung perfectly still in the freezing air, its graying finger locked onto my face through the glass. I couldn't move. My muscles felt like concrete. The headlights of the truck were still on, casting a sickening yellow glow through the dense fog. I stared at the driver's side cab, trying to see the face behind the impossible arm. The interior was completely dark, save for the faint green glow of the truck's dashboard lights. Then, the driver leaned forward from the light. It wasn't a monster. It was Vance. But it wasn't the man who had hired me 3 weeks ago. His skin was translucent, stretched so tight over his skull that his cheekbones looked ready to puncture the flesh. His jaw hung open at an unnatural, unhinged angle, loose and swinging like a broken door hinge. When he spoke, his tongue didn't move. The voice came from deep within his chest, wet and echoing. "You blinked, kid," Vance rasped. The sound was like dry autumn leaves scraping across the sidewalk. "I told you, if you break a single instruction, you wouldn't live long enough to cash the check." "Vance," I choked out, my voice barely whispered against the glass. "Please, help me." The thing wearing Vance's face smiled. It was a wide, jagged grin that split his lower lip, letting a thick, black fluid trickle down his chin. "Vance isn't here anymore. Vance blinked in 1994. We just keep his clothes." The unhinged jaw snapped shut with a horrific, bone-crushing crack. Before I could even process the sound, a violent explosion of noise erupted from right behind me. It was lane 2. The automated coin drop machine wasn't jamming. The heavy iron basket was shaking so violently that the bolts anchoring it to the concrete were ripping out. From inside the narrow coin return slot, a sound emerged. It wasn't the clinking of quarters. It was the frantic, desperate sound of dozens of long, metallic fingernails clawing at the inside of the steel chute. Rule 4. Turn off your booth lights immediately. Press your back against the floor. Do not look up at the glass windows until you hear the sound of heavy rain. I lunged for the main breaker switch on the wall, slamming it down. Darkness swallowed booth 4. The only illumination left was the sickly yellow high beams of the truck cutting through the glass. I dropped to my knees, throwing myself flat against the cold concrete floor. I pressed my spine hard against the base of the metal desk, burying my face in my arms, staring at the floor dust. Above me, the clawing sound stopped. A second later, a wet, heavy slap echoed against the roof of the booth. Something massive had jumped from lane 2 onto the top of my glass box. The thick steel supports grooved into the ceiling, groaned under an immense shifting weight. Then came the dragging sound, a slow rhythmic slap, slap, as a massive wet organ dragged itself across the bulletproof windows. A terrible suffocating stench filtered through the tiny air vents. It smelled like a flooded basement, copper and old, corroded pennies. My eyes squeezed shut, my entire body convulsing with the silent, terrified sobs. Rain. I prayed. Please let it rain. I listened to the sky. Nothing. The night air outside was bone dry. Suddenly, a loud synchronized clang, 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 clang shook the entire valley. It was the heavy pneumatic gears of the automated highway gates. I didn't need to look at the digital console to know what it meant. The mechanical groans of all 4 barriers lifting echoed in perfect unison through the fog. Rule 5. The toll booths are the locking mechanism, keeping something vast underneath the asphalt. If all 4 booth gates open at the same time, you have 3 minutes to run into the woods. Do not look back at the road. The concrete floor beneath my chest violently buckled. A massive, tearing screech ripped through the air as the asphalt outside was split wide open, showering my legs with glass. A deep, low rumble vibrated from miles beneath the earth. A sound that felt less like an earthquake and more like a colossal, ancient chest cavity taking its first breath after centuries of burial. I didn't think anymore. The 3-minute timer was running. I scrambled to my feet, threw open the heavy vault door of the booth, and bolted straight into the pitch-black wall of pine trees, tightly gripping my phone in my pocket. The forest air was freezing, instantly turning my panicked breath into thick white plumes. Behind me, the sound of tearing metal and the collapsing concrete echoed through the valley as Route 9 completely tore itself apart. I ran blindly, using my phone's flashlight beam to cut through the heavy fog. Branches whipped across my face, drawing blood, but I didn't feel it. The adrenaline was the only thing keeping my legs moving. I must have run for 2 minutes straight before my light caught a shape up ahead. A man was standing perfectly still between 2 massive pine trees. He wore a faded corporate suit, his arms hanging limply at his sides. I skidded to a halt, my boots digging into the wet pine needles. Hey, we have to go. The highway is collapsing. He didn't move. He didn't turn. I took a cautious step closer, shining the phone light onto his face. My stomach dropped into a bottomless pit of horror. It was the commuter from Rule 1, the man who had handed me the $50 bill without making eye contact. His eyes were wide open, completely glassy, staring blankly up at the dark canopy. He was breathing, but his mouth was locked into a rigid, silent scream. I backed away, panicking, and swung the phone light to the left. There were more of them, dozens of them, standing in neat straight rows among the trees like a twisted orchard. I saw a woman in a minivan sweater. I saw a teenager in a college hoodie. I saw truck drivers, commuters, and entire families. Thousands of people who had taken Route 9 over the decades, all standing shoulder to shoulder in the dark, frozen in place, staring directly up at the sky. Then, the catastrophic rumbling from the highway suddenly stopped. In the dead, suffocating silence of the forest, a synchronized wet crack echoed through the trees. All at once, every single one of those thousands of missing drivers snapped their heads down. They weren't looking at me. They were looking past me, pointing long, pale fingers towards the edge of the woods, where I had just run from. It's out, the man in the suit whispered. His voice sounded like grinding stones. It's out, the woman next to him repeated. The chant spread through the dark woods like wildfire, thousands of voices layering into a deafening drone. The dead-eyed pale drivers began stepping forward in unison, closing the circle around me, their hands reaching out to point back at the highway. A vast, dark silhouette was slowly rising above the tree line, blotting out the stars, dragging a massive shape out from beneath the split asphalt. I screamed, shoved my phone deep into my pocket, turned around, and sprinted away from the closing circle. I scrambled over the buckled, smoking concrete of the outer road barrier, found my old sedan still parked untouched in the employee gravel lot, and drove like a maniac through the grass until I finally hit a state county road. I'm safe now. I'm at this diner, but I finally figured out what the toll booths were actually doing. They weren't collecting money. They were collecting attention. The entity under the road feeds entirely on human awareness. It needed people to look at its rules. It needed people to wonder why it was there. It needed people to wonder what it was. Every time a driver focused on that booth, a piece of their consciousness was trapped there, anchoring the entity beneath the earth. By breaking the rules, I broke the seal. And now, I realize the most terrifying part of Rule 5. The entity is free, and it's moving. It follows the paths of those who know its patterns. If you're reading this, you now know the rules. You are thinking about it. You are feeding its awareness. If you start hearing the sound of heavy rain outside your window tonight, and the sky is completely clear, do not look up. Do not look up at the glass. It knows who is looking for it. Oh my gosh, that is one crazy story. The comments on this are full of people explaining exactly how they survived that shift. I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't, but let's just hear it out. They'd say they'd blink one eye at a time, stay flat on the floor, and they wouldn't get curious. All of them are completely sure they'd have made it to 6 in the morning, but here's the thing. He did follow the rules. He kept his finger off the button when a kid was screaming outside the trunk 20 feet away from him. That's the hard one, and he passed it, right? And the part I genuinely can't shake is the thing telling him it's been watching him for 14 days. That he looks lonely in there. 2 solid weeks of night shifts, and it was just sitting with him the whole time. That's my limit. Job or no job, eviction or not, I'm walking into those woods. That's my tipping point. And guys, make sure you check your food before you eat, because sometimes there's a second slip of paper in there, and it isn't just a receipt. This story is from r/nosleep, posted by the user Wisto, and it's titled, "If your delivery driver says he forgot your drink, don't open the door again." I know how stupid it sounds, because I used to read posts like this and think the same thing. Don't open the door, just call the police, just get out. You never realize how useless all of those thoughts are until you're standing barefoot in your hallway at midnight, holding a kitchen knife in one hand and your phone in the other, listening to someone breathe on the other side of your front door. It started with Thai food. I had just moved into my new apartment 3 weeks earlier. Nothing dramatic, no haunted backstory, no weird old building with a caretaker who warned me about the basement. Just a normal second floor apartment above a row of shops. The kind of place where the hallway always smelled faintly of carpet cleaner and someone else's dinner. I'd moved there after my breakup with Lewis. We had been together 4 years. He wasn't dangerous or evil or anything like that. He was just useless in that quiet, exhausting way that makes you feel like you're raising a grown man. When he finally left, I felt sad for about a week and then mostly relieved. For the first time in a long time, the place was mine. My mugs in the cupboard, my clothes in the wardrobe, my music playing without him asking if we could put something else on. That night, I got home late from work. It had been raining all day and my shoes were soaked through. I didn't have the energy to cook, so I ordered from the Thai place down the road. Green curry, jasmine rice, spring rolls, and a Diet Coke. The app said 25 minutes. I changed into pajamas, washed my face, and sat on the sofa scrolling through my phone. I remember feeling almost peaceful. That's the part that bothers me now. How normal it all was. How close I came to having an ordinary, boring night. It was 10:43. My buzzer went. I pressed the intercom. Hello? Delivery. His voice was soft, youngish maybe, hard to tell through the speaker. Second floor, flat 6. I know, he said. I frowned at that, but only for a second. Drivers get the flat number on the app. Obviously, he knew. I buzzed him in and waited by the door. A minute later, there was a knock. When I opened it, he was standing too close. The first thing I noticed, most delivery drivers step back after knocking. This one was right there, almost filling the doorway. He wore a black raincoat with the hood up and one of those thermal delivery bags over his shoulder. I couldn't see much of his face, just his mouth and a bit of stubble. "Aaron?" he asked. "That's me." He handed me the bag. "Enjoy your food." "Thanks." I took it and was about to close the door when he said, "Sorry, I forgot your drink." I looked into the bag. Curry, rice, spring rolls, no Diet Coke. "It's fine," I said. "Don't worry about it. I've got it downstairs. Honestly, it's fine. I'll bring it up." Before I could answer, he turned and walked away. I closed the door and locked it. I don't know why I locked it so quickly. Maybe because he stood too close. Maybe because he had said my name like he already knew me. Maybe because I live alone now, and living alone changes the sound of every small thing. I put the food on the coffee table and tried to shake it off. My curry was hot, the rice was still steaming, and for a few minutes I convinced myself I was being ridiculous. Then, I found the receipt. It was folded under the spring rolls, not the restaurant receipt that was stapled to the outside of the bag. This was a plain white slip of paper, torn badly at one edge. At first, I thought it was some kitchen note that had fallen in by accident. Then I saw my name. Aaron M. Flat 6. Lives alone. No dog. Chain lock only. Bedroom window faces service alley. Usually home after 7. I stared at it for a long time. My first thought was Lewis. It had to be Lewis. Some pathetic attempt to scare me, to make me call him, to make me feel like I still needed someone. It sounded exactly like the sort of thing he would think was clever after a few drinks. I picked up my phone and called him. He answered on the 5th ring. What? Did you send me something? What? Don't play dumb. Did you send someone to my flat? There was a pause, then a tired sigh. Aaron, it's nearly 11. I got a note in my takeaway. What note? One that says that I live alone. Another pause. This one felt different. Are you serious? Yes. Where are you? In my flat, obviously. Lock your door. It is locked. No. Properly lock it. That annoyed me even then, like he was suddenly the sensible one. I have locked it. Send me a picture. I almost told him to piss off, but I took a photo of the note and sent it. He called back 10 seconds later. That wasn't me. His voice had changed. He sounded awake now. I swear on my mother, that wasn't me. Call the police. Before I could answer, someone knocked on my door. 3 soft knocks. Not loud, not aggressive, just polite. I stood in the middle of my living room with the phone against my ear. Aaron? Lewis said. Another knock. Then the delivery driver's voice. Forgot your drink. I didn't move. Lewis kept saying my name, but he sounded far away. The driver knocked again. I can leave it here if you want. I walked slowly to the door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. No delivery driver, no drink, nothing. I stepped back. My phone buzzed in my hand. A notification from the delivery app. Your driver is at your door. I looked at the peephole again. Empty hallway. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I don't know why I answered. I think my brain was still trying to make sense of it. Still, trying to turn it into something normal. Hello? The delivery driver said. You shouldn't have looked at the receipt. I couldn't speak. You were meant to eat first, he said. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor and the call stayed connected. I could hear his breathing through the speaker. Then the handle moved. Slowly. Down, then up. Down, then up. I had locked the door, but he was testing it gently, like he didn't want to make too much noise. I picked up the phone and ended the call. My hands were shaking so badly, it took 3 tries. Then I called 999. The operator asked what service I needed. Police, I whispered. What's happening? There's someone outside my flat. Are you in immediate danger? Yes, I think so. Is your door locked? Yes. Can you see the person? I looked through the peephole again. Empty hallway. No, I said, but he's there. As soon as I said that, the letterbox lifted. Just a little. A black gap opened near my knees. I stumbled back. The operator asked me what had happened. He opened the letterbox. Do not approach the door, she said. Go into a room with a lock if you can. My bathroom had a lock. It was cheap and flimsy, but it was something. I grabbed the biggest knife from the kitchen drawer and backed toward the bathroom. The letterbox clicked shut. Then the knocking started again. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Pause. Aaron? He called. I locked myself in the bathroom and sat on the edge of the bath with the knife on my lap. The operator kept talking to me, calm and steady, asking questions I could barely answer. My address, my name, whether I had seen a weapon, whether there was another way into the flat. No, I said. Just the front door. Then I remembered the note. Bedroom window faces service alley. My bedroom window, the one I had opened earlier, because the flat smelled of paint and damp clothes. I stood so fast the knife clattered into the bath. What is it? The operator asked. My bedroom window. Is someone trying to get in? I don't know. Stay where you are if the bathroom door's locked. The problem was, from the bathroom, I couldn't see the bedroom. I couldn't see the hallway. I couldn't see anything. The flat went quiet. That was worse than the knocking. For a few seconds, all I could hear was the operator breathing through my phone and my own heart hammering in my ears. Then my bedroom door creaked. I had left it open. I knew I had. But then I heard it creak. The sound was slow and careful, the sound of someone touching the door with their fingertips and pushing it wider. "He's inside," I whispered. The operator said police were close. Close didn't mean inside the flat. Close didn't mean between me and him. A floorboard moved in the hallway. Then another. He was walking toward the bathroom. I picked the knife back up and stood behind the door. My legs felt weak. I remember thinking I was going to die in pajamas, which is stupid to think, but it was there in my head. I was going to die barefoot, in old pajamas, with Thai food cooling on the coffee table. The bathroom handle dipped. Once. Twice. Then his voice came through the door. "You should have taken the drink." I covered my mouth with my hand. He laughed quietly. "I'm not angry," he said. "You just made it messy." The door moved in the frame as he pressed his shoulder against it. The bathroom lock was a tiny silver turn lock, the kind you use when someone might accidentally walk in while you're brushing your teeth. It was never meant to keep anyone out. He pressed again. Wood cracked near the latch. The operator was saying something. I couldn't understand her. Then there was a bang from downstairs. A voice shouted, "Police!" The pressure left the door. For 1 second, I thought he had run. Then, the bathroom door burst open. He came through with his hood still up and a screwdriver in his right hand. I swung the knife without thinking. It caught his arm. He shouted and slammed into me, knocking me back against the sink hard enough to crack the mirror. I dropped the knife. He grabbed my waist and squeezed so hard my fingers went numb. "Stupid," he said. That was all he got out. 2 officers came down the hallway shouting. One of them hit him from the side and they both went into the bath. The other officer pulled me out into the hallway and kept saying, "You're safe, you're safe, you're safe." Even though I didn't feel safe. I don't think I've felt safe since. They arrested him in my bathroom. His name was Daniel Price. At least, that was the name he gave them. He wasn't the delivery driver assigned to my order. The real driver was a woman named Melissa, who had been found in her car 3 streets away, unconscious but alive. Someone had hit her from behind after she collected my food. Daniel had taken her phone, her thermal bag, and her jacket. That would have been bad enough. Then, they searched his car. They found printed receipts, dozens of them, maybe more. Names, addresses, notes. Some were crossed out. Some had ticks next to them. Mine had a circle around it. The police wouldn't tell me much. They never do. They keep using words like ongoing investigation and potential link and recovered items. But one officer told me something by accident. He said, the others were lucky too. Then he stopped talking. Others? I stayed with Lewis that night, which tells you how scared I was. I sat on his sofa until morning and watched the rain run down the window. He made tea and kept apologizing for things that had nothing to do with him. By midday, I had convinced myself it was over. Daniel was arrested, Melissa was alive. The police had the receipts, the locks were being changed. I would move again if I had to. Then, my phone buzzed. A notification from the delivery app. I stared at it, confused, because I had deleted the app in the police station. I had watched it disappear from my screen, but there it was. Your driver is nearby. I opened the notification. The map showed a little bike icon moving down Lewis's street. I stood up so quickly I spilled tea over my leg. Lewis was asking what was wrong. The bike icon stopped outside his house. Then the doorbell rang. Lewis went pale. "No," I said, "don't." He walked to the front window and looked through the curtain. "There's no one there," he said. My phone buzzed again. "Your driver is at your door." Then another message appeared. "Forgot your drink." That was 3 days ago. I'm writing this from a hotel room under a name that isn't mine. The police have my phone now. They said there was no active order, no driver, no record of any notification being sent. But I saw it. Lewis saw the doorbell camera too. Empty porch, no one there. Just 3 knocks recorded by the audio. 3 soft knocks. I don't know whether he set something up before they arrested him. I don't know why the app keeps coming back on every phone I borrow, or why the notifications know where I am before I tell anyone. All I know is this. If you order food late at night, and the driver says he forgot your drink, tell him to leave it outside. Do not open the door. Do not check the hallway. Do not believe the peephole. And if your phone says the driver is nearby after you've already deleted the app, get out before he knocks. Because last night at 10:43, someone slipped a receipt under my hotel room door. It had my fake name on it, my room number, no dog, traveling alone, bathroom lock weak. At the bottom, written in pen, there were 4 words. You still seem thirsty. Damn, that is an insane story. Okay, going back to the start of that one, right? She tells him, 2nd floor, number 6, and he goes, I know. That's when I knew it was over. That's when I'm gonna be honest, that's when I knew it was over. I don't think anybody else would catch that, okay? She just brushes it off, because obviously the app told him, right? Except that note in the bag lists her chain lock and which way her bedroom window faces. And there's no app on earth that knows that. He already had been inside that building, and the worst part is, she didn't do one single thing wrong. She locked the door, she called someone, she checked the people. She did everything you're supposed to, and it made no difference at all. I mean, even me right now, I got my window open, it's hot right now, got my AC running, so that's crazy. And that is the 2 stories for tonight. Tell me down below which one scared you the most, whether it was a Route 9, the toll booth, or it was the delivery driver still giving her notifications. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace, peace.